Custom keyboards are awesome. They're a perfect way to add some personality to your desk setup. Wanting to keep it mute and not draw attention? Done. Need a simple pop-up color to your monochrome setup? Easy. How about keeping the people you live with up late at night as you always do when you're typing away? Say no more. And while on the surface, custom keyboards seem like a simple hobby to get into, the rabbit hole goes much deeper than you think. Not to mention, things can get really expensive really quick. No need to worry though, I'll guide you through everything you need to know about custom mechanical keyboards. When it comes to custom keyboards, there are a lot of parts needed to make the magic happen. The list of parts required for a build is actually surprisingly long. But before you even look at any of that, you should start with asking yourself two big questions. How much am I willing to spend? And what keyboard layout do I want? As for the first question, it's pretty straightforward. Just plan out your budget and try to stick to it. I mean, odds are you may go a bit above it, just like the rest of us in this hobby, but there's no shame in that. And that's actually the main reason why I recommend budgeting first, especially since custom keyboard parts can start at tens of dollars and easily go well into the multi-$100 price range. Layer that with the common practice of group buys and it can get interesting. For those who don't know, group buys are where a bunch of people will chip in to get a product. They are pretty common practice and you will see them on sites like Kickstarter and Drop to name some larger ones. On to the second question. Keyboard layout is something that you'll have to discover on your own since it's entirely subjective. Good news, as you can see, there are plenty of layout options to choose from. Just know that there is a compromise with just about any given size you might want to go with. 60% is perfect if you have a small area to work with or need something that can travel well. The trade-off being you lose everything outside the primary numbers and letter keys. Yes, you do have access to the other options via commands, but it can still be a deal breaker depending on what keys are needed in your daily life. 75% and 10 keyless work as a great middle ground, allowing use of the function row, arrow keys, and commands like print screen. The downside is you don't have access to a full-fledged numpad like a full keyboard, and it has a larger footprint than a 60%. Full size, it's pretty straightforward. You have all the buttons to do all the things. Just make sure you have enough desk space for it though. Okay, now that we have those questions answered, time to move into our first part of making our keyboard. I may have caught some of you off guard with that, since arguably the most important part of the build is the feel of it. Personally, I would argue that looks are equally as important. Sound is important too, but we will talk about that later on. I also recommend it as a first step because there are just so many options out there. It could take some time to find that perfect keycap set. Plus, if you already have a keyboard you like, custom keycaps are a great way to bring your keyboard to life, especially if you're on a tight budget. If you want to get a head start looking at keycaps, some websites I recommend are kdbfans.com, keybsforall.com, mechanicalkeyboards.com, and amazon.com. Although you should use Amazon as your last resort in my opinion. When going to these sites, you may notice that group buys are very common, so do not be surprised if you find a particular set not for sale anymore, or if it may take some time for it to come in. And if you are browsing for keycaps already, you may have noticed a couple different materials that keycaps are made out of and advertised for. Two of the most common materials that you'll find are PBT and ABS. The main difference is PBT is a more expensive material that is easier to keep clean and more durable. PBT also tends to have this nice matte texture to it as well. ABS, on the other hand, is a cost-effective option for big manufacturers that tend to go with it. As you would expect, there are less durable and show fingerprints much more, offering a smoother and glossier feel as well. Just as important is how the keycaps are made. The most common ones advertised is double shot keycaps, where you take two parts and mold them together. This allows for cool things like RGB illumination through the keycaps. Double shot keycaps on average tend to be very crisp in their design and quite durable. Just be aware that even though different keycap sets may advertise same material and manufacturing process, that does not mean they are made the same standard. This can also be said for just about any part when it comes to a custom keyboard as well. With that PSA over, let's talk about the second manufacturing process, dye sublimation. This is where the material is used for the legend injected into the base of the keycap. Think of it like filling a tooth cavity. This method, in my experience, is equally as crisp and durable as double shot, but may not have transparent lettering like double shot keycaps. Last, there are keycaps that are printed on with a thin layer of material on them to form a legend and design. This is usually reserved for the cheapest of mass-produced keyboards, but you may find a keycap set out in the wild like this. I would generally advise to staying away from this method since printing is more often than not wears out in no time. Now since I'm done laying all that out, time to talk about what you should get. And to put it simply, it comes down to whatever looks best to you. Preference is such a big factor when it comes to every aspect of this hobby. And with its rising popularity, there are more high quality options for keycaps than ever before. And odds are you will find something that fits your style and made with good quality. Okay, now we're talking. Time to start planning how you want your keyboard to sound, like, or, to achieve that satisfying part, there are 3 switch types that we have to work with: linear, tactile, and clicky. Linear is great if you want something quiet to ensure you won't bother others, or if you want something that just feels buttery smooth when typing. And there's nothing quite like a key that just glides when you press it. Next up is tactile, working as a good in-between for the 2 extremes, giving you feedback when you activate the key without that click that some may find annoying. And if you're looking at clicky, you know what you're gonna get sound-wise. Plus, they have a nice tactile bump as well, just like the previously mentioned switches. Quick warning, not all tactile switches are made equal. Some have really noticeable bumps, and others tend to be more subtle in their approach. On top of that, the actuation distance of the bump can vary. Some break right away at the top, and others require you to travel a distance before you hit the wall and then break. So make sure you factor that as well if you decide to go with something tactile. With all that to consider, choosing what switch is best for you can be difficult, mainly because it's something that you require in your hands to experience for yourself and to be able to make a choice. Luckily, it is common practice for places to sell sample packs filled with different kinds of switches to help you out. A good option if you have some spare cash to spend as well. If that is not in your budget, then search up some switch reviews here on YouTube to help make a choice. I know it's not the same as having switches in your hand, but trust me, it can help make the choice a lot less daunting. The nice part about switch reviews is the sound tests that accompany them to help gauge how the given switch will sound in a certain setup. Just be aware that while switches make up a large part of how a keyboard sounds, it's the sum of the whole that truly gives custom keyboards their various sound signatures. Keycaps, backplates, PCB, and case all contribute to that sound. Speaking of those parts, not gonna lie, there are a good number of parts bundled into this section, and I do have my reasoning for it. Now, depending on the level of customization you wish to delve into, building a keyboard can be easy as getting a pre-built board, putting some switches into the board, slapping some keycaps on, and boom, you're good to go. Or if you really want to get into the nitty-gritty, you can part out the case, PCB, backplate, and stabilizers, assembling it piece by piece, and soldering the switches in. Completely viable if you are into that rather tedious process. If you are a beginner or simply wish not to deal with the hassle of matching parts, I highly recommend getting a pre-built hot swappable board. Best part is, since the board is hot swappable, you can change out switches as you like, just in case you end up not liking the switches you initially chose, or if a particular switch breaks and it needs replacing. On the other hand, you can solder your switches into place in the PCB, something that is time consuming and can be a pain if you need to replace malfunctioning switches, but does offer you a stable connection since a hot swap socket can be another point of failure on a keyboard and makes the switches more stable as well when soldered in, which allows for more consistent typing experience. A key part to the stability of switches and the sound profile of the keyboard is the backplate, which can come in a bunch of cool options: plastic, aluminum, steel, or even brass. If you are parting out and wanting the best sound, the general consensus is that aluminum and brass are the way to go. Cases also come in a nice array of materials and colors as well, allowing you to tie your whole build together in a nice, neat package. Some of the most common materials are aluminum and plastic. Each one has their own benefits. Aluminum is great if you need something sturdy to travel or just like having a keyboard with good weight. There's also offers a great sound profile with each key press, having a full sound with a nice thock. Plastic is a nice affordable option and offers the widest array of colors. The sound of the plastic case can leave a lot to be desired though, often sounding hollow or echoey. There are some mods that I will cover later that can solve this problem though. Other notable materials are wood, resin, and acrylic. While these offerings are more rare to see, they do offer a nice change of pace compared to the usual solid colors of aluminum and plastic. And to tie everything together, there are a plethora of mounting options used to secure the aforementioned parts together. So many in fact that it could make its own video. Let us know in the comments if you would like to see something like that. But the long story short of the two most common mounting options, gasket offers the softest typing experience, having a bit of give when you bottom out a key press. The other is tray mounting, providing a lot more rigidity than gasket mounting. And to top it all off, we have stabilizers. It's what stops your larger keys from teeter-tottering when you press them. And when looped properly, they don't make any ticking noise. For an easy recommendation, Durox are widely referred as the best stabilizers on the market. So yeah, that's all the core stuff you need to know when it comes to custom mechanical keyboards. I know, it's a lot, but we haven't even gone into the next layer of customizability outside of the base keyboard alone. Just you wait. That's right, we have to accessorize. Can't have your keyboard going out there without that Gucci. And if you want a look that no one else has, look no further than artisan keycaps. As you would expect, it's a very expensive option, but totally worth it if you want to bring your build to the next level. Styles can range from nature, video games, to mythical beasts, and so much more. If you decide to invest in one of these bad boys, you will typically find them in options for escape keys and spacebars. Just be aware that artisan keycaps tend to not be in stock very often, and are also subject to being purchased through group buys more often than almost any other product related to keyboards. Something equally as expensive but definitely worth it for that extra bit of flair is a nice coiled cable. They come in almost any combination of colors under the rainbow, making it easy to color match with your overall PC setup. On the other end of the board, you can get a wrist rest. You don't typically see wrist rests nowadays, but still commonly sold on many different sites. Wood and leather tend to be the most popular material choices, but plastic and artisan options do exist. But let's say that you deck yourself out with the perfect board and all the hot accessories, and there's still just that something that's lacking. Something like the sound of your keyboard or the way the key feels when you press them. Changing things like that will require you to dive into your board and get your hands dirty. As you can probably imagine, mods are modifications that can be done to alter your keyboard to better fit your liking. One of the most common mods done is the simple act of lubing your switches and stabilizers. It is actually so common that quite a large number of enthusiasts just consider it a mandatory part of building a keyboard. And I can't deny it's common practice since it will almost always give you a better feel than the stock lube, if there is any, but it's technically a mod. When it comes to the lube you use for your switches, Krytox 205G0 is the way to go, but it is recommended to use dielectric grease for your stabilizers. If you want a more in-depth video on how to lube your switches to perfection, go ahead and subscribe and hit that bell. It's something we definitely plan on dedicating a video to in the future. The next most common mod would be filling up your case with a sound dampening material. If you have a board that sounds hollow when typing on it, this would be a good mod to look into. Luckily, there are many different mediums to use to alter the sound of your keyboard, ranging from general foam to dampening materials used in cars. Hell, even just masking the backside of your PCB with blue painter's tape has been found to be a cheap and effective method. Hey, you made it all the way to the end. Massive props. I know there was a lot of info in this video, and I probably didn't even touch on everything possible when it comes to custom keyboards. And I know I didn't talk about the process of actually building the board, but don't worry, that will be in a future video. Get subscribed for that. And if you feel like I didn't answer a question you have been dying to get answered, or a particular topic I missed, feel free to let me know down in the comments. But if you feel like you learned something new or found this guide useful, feel free to leave a like. And if you want to reach us on our other platforms, we do have a Twitter at tech_4_thought and an Instagram at tech_4 spelled FOR_thought. And want to go to the extra mile? You can become a member and get access to some awesome badges and emotes, as well as live streams and community posts just for our members. Once again, I do thank you for watching this video, and I'll see you next time.